So will I keep going or will I wait till the microphone emerges? All right. I will just raise your hand if you can't hear me. I was trained to project my voice to the back wall, so but I'm saved by the microphone, which is even better. Perfect. Okay, first of all, sorry if it's getting too onerous. Oh, is this your first time here?
Oh, fine.
Sonam. Only 14. How wonderful. Yes, she's embarrassing. Welcome, welcome. And you're nearly here? Oh, excellent. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. You're here now. We're here now. We're all okay. So, yeah, I was going to say Happy New Year. We will keep saying that until February the 10th at least, because that's the Tibetan New Year. And it's also this year, sometimes they come at different, like up to a month apart. Chinese New Year, Vietnamese New Year, Tibetan New Year, all on one day. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Somehow we this year calculated our astrology the same. It's a mystery why they're never or not always the same, but every so many years they are. So that's this year. Okay. So here we're today just giving an overview in relation to Bodhisattva vows, and then in the next couple of weeks going through at least the root vows in some slight detail, as much as we can get through. So just to explain that. So this is from one of our Pan courses from London to Apart. The main, and feel free to share wisdom, Kopan. The main deeds of bodhisattvas, the beings who have bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, citta mind, bodhi is a mind, we call it the mind of enlightenment or mind of spirit of enlightenment. So it's that one that, like in the refuge and bodhicitta prayer coming from Amritisha, that says, may I become a Buddha. Why? To benefit all sentient beings. So that wish to increase our capacity of enhancing more and more benefit to others. And so, okay, so the main things the bodhisattvas do are on that basis of bodhicitta. And if we're talking about bodhisattvas, they have that sort of spontaneous bodhicitta, like, and I always say, can't help but help, it's a job to help. And as Charles Darwin said, we're all hardwired for compassion. In fact, all of us, humans, for sure, hardwired for compassion. And then the Dalai Lama in one talk in Sydney, one of the teachings, and it was a public talk, and His Holiness was investigating where does compassion kick in. So he said, single-celled amoeba, I'm not sure. Definitely not mosquitoes. His Holiness has a thing with mosquitoes, not a, shall we say, friendship. Of course, being totally impartial and working for their enlightenment. I can't say, he said. But when you come to mammals, we know that, we see, different mammals in the animal realm looking after not just their own species, but other species, helping to raise dogs raising cats or cats raising dogs or whatever. We get these cute little emails from used to and videos of that happening. So, and by sure, us as human beings. So that aspect, the compassion, and then the observation of a high code of ethics. I think, given the state of the world these days, I think any practice of ethics is probably a high code of ethics. Oh, I sound depressing already, don't I? I'm sorry. But given that to practice pure ethics at a time of great degeneration, which we are in, where, you know, people's minds are much more quickly prone to anger, as the Dalai Lama said, conflict. Actually, Lama Zopa said at the beginning of COVID, everybody in conflict with everybody, from our interpersonal, maybe intrapersonal, interpersonal, up to, as we're seeing, world wars happening. So that this is a time of that, and we see a lot more anger arising out of control. So this high code of ethics, I mean, first of all, we're starting with disciplining an ethical discipline of, particularly in relation to not harming with our body and not harming with our speech, which I think is probably the one we really need most work on out of the two, right? Because so words, you know, harmful words can come out very easily, you know, and not just out the mouth, on social media, on emails, on whatever form of communication, and all the different forms of doing harm with our speech in terms of backbiting others. I hear in the Dharma, and I think these are Dharma students wanting to, you know, making this commitment to attain Buddhahood. And I think if we can't do that amongst ourselves, how can we benefit others outside of, you know, others who don't hold the same views, and etc., and maybe haven't at least attempted to get some control of their mind. So we want to observe, if possible, the most pure ethics that we can observe, and we admire our teachers who do that, practice ethical restraint. As the Buddha said, the practice of ethical restraint is do no harm. Do no harm. And then we unpack what harm is. You wouldn't think we need to unpack, but we do. Like, I grew up Catholic, and we ate fish on Friday because you didn't eat red meat on Friday, so you ate fish instead. Of course, as a Buddhist, I'm not eating either. Not that the Buddha said don't eat meat. It said don't get someone to kill it for you. So I figure supply and demand, you know. So don't eat those substances. So, of course, from a Buddhist perspective, you say, well, one fish, that's a whole fish. Whereas if I ate a little bit of a cow, it's only one bit of a big animal. Of course, the animal's dead. It had to die for me to eat it. So in any case, yeah, I'm just saying different values are held within society. And so we need to know what a Buddhist code of ethics is. And so, of course, we know no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. And then with, no lying in terms of our speech. But we also say no abusive language, no divisive language, turning people against each other. No abusive language, and no, this is the tricky one, isn't it? Idle chitter-chatter, blah, 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 blah. In my experience, why? Because it turns into one of the others. But actually it is because it's diluting, weakening the power of our speech, so that if I'm going blah, 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 blah all day, then people are going to switch off maybe within 5 minutes. And so they're not listening. So there's the power, your speech has no power, right? Of course, unless you're Geshe Zopa, who said he was happy to listen to someone go blah, blah, blah all day for their benefit, So I rejoice. Yeah, setting a high standard. So, yeah. So, and then, of course, the other part of that, as the Buddha said, subdue your mind, because a mind of anger does harm. A mind of peace does no harm, as the Dalai Lama said. If every school child learned to meditate at an early age, one generation world peace. So simple, and yet we can't imagine it ever happening, can we? We just cannot imagine, but it's so simple to do. But we don't. So not so far. Still hope. I think there's more schools have introduced meditation, so slowly. So getting control of our own minds to prevent those regrettable emotional episodes happening, particularly when it comes to killing, really heavy negative karma. So then when we talk about this high code of ethics, it's refraining from doing harm, like, as we say, non-virtue, things that are non-virtuous. We could say not beneficial. Actually, it's not strong enough to say not beneficial, harmful, and then where we can benefit others. So that's the three major practices of a bodhisattva in terms of ethics, those things. And we take that down to, at a manifest level, of course, I'm guessing everyone here is not going around killing human beings, but we have to get more subtle and see, am I treading on ants, etc., etc. Of course, it's said that we've got all these living beings in our body that, we drink hot, we have cold drink, food, we're drowning them, whatever. But we do the best we can. Yeah. All the parasites that we're feeding. So why are we concerned? Because any being that has a mind, which is what we define as a living being, has Buddha nature. So they're potential Buddha, right? So we don't want to harm that. We don't want to harm that being. But then again, we do need to survive. So we can think, okay, if there's all these parasites there, many Padme Hum, doing mantras for them, doing practice for them, have my speech in virtue so that they're getting blessings of that. Having said that, because this is a bit more not in the body, so here and next door, we have wasps that are going to be removed. And I would say they're not going to be removed, as we would say, humanely, from what I understand. So can they just sort of relocate them? Apparently not. So we've got a week to do lots of prayers and practices for the dying wasps and tell them to come back in precious human rebirth, or at least not a wasp rebirth, because I'll get the same thing happening again. I mean, it's the sort of reality that we, nothing fits in nicely and we have all these challenges. So at least we want to minimize our impact, our harmful impact. Okay. All these dilemmas arise as soon as you try and do it. So Lama Lundrup, previous abbot, I can remember Lama Lundrup, previous abbot of Kopan Monastery, said, so how quickly or slowly we achieve enlightenment is solely dependent on how purely we observe the bodhisattva vows. And I say, I haven't taken bodhisattva vows yet. And that being so, this is a prequel to, if you're taking bodhisattva vows, those of us who have, how purely we observe the bodhisattva vows. So that impacts on how quickly we achieve enlightenment. It sort of makes sense, we read about our precious lamas who, time and time again, you read, they kept perfect conduct, kept their vows perfectly, purely. I remember one of Lamas of Rinpoche's teachers at one point saying how, everything that Rinpoche is pure Dharma, everything's pure about him. Of course, we train our minds like that, but having one of his teachers say that, because the teacher absolutely knows every little nook and cranny. So, yeah, I love that. And then, we follow in the tradition of Lama Tsongkhapa. Again, Lama Tsongkhapa, who maintained all his sets of vows perfectly. So we hear about this with past, great holy beings who we admire, and even present ones, Dalai Lama and so forth. And they're acting as a role model for us to how to observe those vows. You might say, oh, that was a long time ago, it was easier then, but then you've got the beings alive today who are doing exactly the same thing. These vows need to be received from a Lama, and then all the various aspects of the vows need to be observed. In other words, when we do take vows, We need to know their various aspects, you know, all the fine print. And usually that's done by way of using examples so that we can actually apply it in our life. We can say, oh, that's that one. That's, oh, okay. But what does that mean, etc., etc. You know, there's one that says to not destroy places such as towns. And I thought, well, I didn't even worry about that. I'm not going to destroy a town. So far, so good, right? So you have to define a town then. Then I thought, well, maybe not a human town, but what about an anthill or a wasp nest or beehive? So then I was like, they would consider that a town. That's their town. Yeah. And then it's, you know, seeing, yeah. These vows need to be received. Yeah, I said that. So when we take vows from a teacher, we're basically getting those vows on our mind stream, as I say, mental continuum. And that transmission's tracking back, all the way back. So in terms of bodhisattva vows, so we can look at one aspect of that coming from, well, certainly the practice of the bodhisattva vows that we take in our lineage goes back to Lama Salingpa, having received the transmission or the bodhicitta transmission from Buddha Maitreya in Indonesia, and then passing that on to Lama Atisha and then coming down to us. But of course, you can track that lineage all the way back to the Buddha. So even though in you know, sort of Chinese Mahayana or Korean Mahayana, they might have slightly different representations of taking the vows. Basically, it says vows, but it's one vow, you know, to become a Buddha, to benefit all sentient beings, a vow of bodhicitta. Really is, and then the others are downfalls. Don't do this, don't do that. This will break it, and so forth. Okay. Next one. Oh, next one. Next one. So Demalocho Rinpoche, who's passed now, explained the following about taking vows. He said, if you have taken vows to refrain from committing certain actions and you abide by that, you receive benefits and merits. However, if you refrain from committing certain actions without having taken a vow, you do not accumulate the merit. So it's making the point about vows, and this is vows at any level, you know, taking the individual liberation vows, taking bodhisattva vows, tantric vows, and so forth. So I can, you know, not have taken any vows, but I'm definitely do not want to kill, right? So I avoid killing. And so I gain the virtue from that of not killing at the times I am not killing, you know what I mean? Refraining from killing. But if I take the vow, it's like there's a subtle, it's not really a substance, I always think substance, but a very subtle form the vows lay on your mental continuum that goes lifetime to lifetime, remains on there. And so that even you're fast asleep, you're still accumulating the merit of not killing, even you're fast asleep. So you're not intending not to kill at that point, you know what I mean? So no matter what you're doing, all day, every day, you're accumulating that merit of whatever vows you take. So that operates at every level. So the idea is, you know, this subtle form on our mental continuum informs our behavior, shapes our behavior. So that it can look like, you know, am I living up to my moral compass, my ethical values? Yes. Yeah. That both ways. So when I say backwards, let's just posit that it's likely that we have taken these vows before in previous lives. If we've taken these vows before in previous lives, see, I used to worry about this. I thought, if I take bodhisattva vows, at the beginning I worried about, no, I understand a bit more. But take the bodhisattva vows in this life. What happens next time when I'm a cockroach or an ant? I mean, I'm not intending to be either. I'm doing my best to avoid all that. And I have no control over ethics. I'm just worried about if somebody's going to kill me or I've got something to eat. However, what it is even, say I've taken bodhisattva vows in past lives, but I haven't taken in this life. So if I have an infraction of a bodhisattva vow, I don't accumulate that non-virtue because I haven't taken those vows in this life. Even though I have this on my mental continuum, it's like I've got the imprint for that. And then in this life, it meets the conditions to wake that up. You come to a Dharma center and someone's giving bodhisattva vows. So that gets woken up. And different conditions can wake that up. Like Geshe Dzogchen was talking about when last time he was in New Zealand, Indonesia, a few months ago. And it was a sort of pilgrimage group, but they weren't all Buddhist. And so he said he gave them bodhisattva vows. You can take bodhisattva vows without taking refuge vows because it's this aspiration. You know, His Holiness Dalai Lama said, Jesus Christ, great bodhisattva. Right? Now, our Christian friends are not going to say it that way, but having grown up Catholic, there was always that bleeding heart of Jesus up on the altar, and that represented compassion, right? That, not bearing to see the suffering, we'd say same saying. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? Of course, other, like taking tantric vows or whatever, you have to have the bodhisattva vows and the refuge vows, but just it's quite interesting to realize you don't have to. So it's a motivation. Of course, we'd say to become a Buddha and to become enlightened. If you're not Buddhist, you might have a different idea of what that is, to know reality as it is, to have infinite compassion for all beings. I think across the board, that's acceptable. Right. Okay. So when we do take vows, bodhisattva vows, there's two levels. There's aspiring and there's engaging. So engaging is where all the pledges you make come along. The aspiring one is giving more power to what we're doing anyway. May I become a Buddha to benefit. You sort of make that a pledge. I'm determined to become a Buddha to benefit beings. You sort of make that stronger. Right? Okay. Next one. For example, to be born as a human being, you need the preliminary cause of pure morality. So this is what we were talking about, pure ethics, ethical restraint. Not just practicing the ethical restraint, but on the context of having taken and kept those vows purely in past lives. So living in the vows purely. So this is said to be a condition just to have a human rebirth, which is already so rare. And then when we say perfect human rebirth, so what we're talking about is all the conditions, let's say in this context, to continue on the bodhisattva path. With Mahayana, we find ourselves in a Mahayana great vehicle, great scope, with those aspirations in our mind and ripening with this. So connecting with all of that, and there's many conditions that come together, but it means practicing charity, or we say the perfection of generosity. And again, you can see this not just in all religions, but just across society, the practice of generosity. But then when you've taken vows and you have let's say we've got the Buddhist understanding of that practice of generosity is, which is, yes, providing the material supports for those who need medicines, food, housing, clothing, meeting basic needs. On top of that, giving from the heart, giving your love. The most important is giving the Dharma, whatever our understanding of the Dharma. Now, the Buddha did not teach until asked. So the Buddha didn't go up to people who weren't interested and say, well, I think I've got the answer for you. They do that. Our lamas don't do that. If you don't ask, once you ask, they're probably like, oh, I've been waiting to tell you a few things. Maybe, no, they're much kinder than that. They're much kinder than that. They rejoice that we want to know. It was interesting because I've just been in Chenrezig Institute in Lamrim retreat, and Geshe Sultan was teaching, and there was one of the participants who was asking a lot of questions, a young person, super keen, asking a lot of questions. And you have this sort of, I don't know whether I should say jaded, but people who've been around for a while, and why are they asking so many questions, and you're being rude, and you're, and so that comment came on the chat from someone who was zooming in. And so as she was asking these questions, just said, oh, by the way, I just want you to know that so-and-so says I'm being rude and aggressive. And so I guess she sort of was like down on that person. It was like, absolutely not. I will decide if you're, I'm not offended by anything you've said. Huh?
Somebody wrote that in the chat.
Yeah.
And because I have the screen up like that, and so it would have been this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Geshe was right on top of it because, let alone anything else in our Tibetan tradition, we encourage that, don't we? We encourage, because it's helping to refine our understanding to get rid of the confusion, right? So it just came in. So we would say that we have taken vows in the past. We may have, well, actually in this life, I think some of us have taken at the same time. We have a particular, not just Dharma friends, particular connection there. Practicing charity. So we talk about practice of generosity, giving the Dharma, giving love, giving protection from fear, where we're able to protect other beings from fear. Saving beings from drowning. I find myself doing a little bit with ants. At Chenrezig, I always have to negotiate with the ants. There's two things, and I have to say, you can have one, but not both. Like, I just want to use one, thanks. Anyway, it seemed to work out for me this time. Next one. So, to have the opportunity to practice Tantra and attain enlightenment in one lifetime. So it is said that it is possible to attain enlightenment once you take the tantric vows, the highest yoga tantra, and practice the tantra generation completion stage. We're not going to be talking about that really in any detail, but just mentioning. It's possible. In fact, it's as Lama Zopa says, to attain enlightenment in 3 short years, or often it's said one lifetime, isn't it, of this degenerate age. And so again, we have those stories of beings of the past who were like Milarepa, wiping out a whole village, destroying places such as towns, yes. The black magic did that, revenge on those who took their property, family property. And then, fortunately, met with Mapa, his teacher, followed everything Mapa said, and gained enlightenment in that lifetime. So you conclude that there were a lot of conditions coming along that mental continuum, a lot of realizations already didn't just sort of pop out of nowhere. So this also comes from having practiced pure morality in past lives. We don't take vows and we don't receive the benefit of abstaining from those actions day and night, even when we're asleep. So that's what I mentioned before. So just to say. Next. the minute we take vows until death. So the individual liberation vows are vows that come along when we take refuge, and there's the set of 5 vows that come along with that if you're a lay practitioner. And so those vows are kept for this lifetime. So they apply to this human existence, this life. However, that subtle form of those vows continues on. So in other words, that amount of virtue of having refrained from harm and maintaining our vows purely will have gathered on your mental continuum more and more power in that lifetime. So that becomes a cause for our human rebirth. And then depending on our motivation, so it says, Lama Zopa says, if performed with renunciation. So renunciation would say this mind of definitely having checked out that not only as the Buddha taught that this life is in the nature of suffering, no matter where I get reborn in what we call samsara, which is the experience of suffering, I'm going to experience suffering. I'm going to be propelled by my confusion, my rude ignorance, and I'm going to make all the mistakes in the world. All the toxic emotions will just be out of control. Maybe not all the time. But anyway, and so it's like, as it says in the Sangata Sutra, have you done coming to Jambu Vipa? Jambu Vipa is this world system. Are you sick of taking life after life after life already? Yes. So because your motivation is that to definitely emerge from samsara or suffering, so this is where, on the basis of taking those vows of individual liberation, you reach a point where there's nothing, not a single thing, let's say, a single object of attraction. Doesn't mean we don't like people or things. We do, we enjoy them, but not that grasping desire that must have a chocolate cake or must have, I don't know, whatever, pick your poison. That craving out of control mind, like Lama Zopa Rinpoche says, go into the shopping centre, watch your desire, watch where your desire goes, but don't buy. Just watch the mind of desire. Maybe we don't have to go to the shopping centre to have that. But it does happen, doesn't it? I find myself, I'm a nun, right? And I'm like, what am I doing walking down this aisle or looking in that shop? I'm never going to wear those clothes. The eyes go. And it's not really that I'm like, oh, that's the fashion they're wearing these days, because whatever people turn up, I'll see that. So not even in a dream having that, arise. Why not even in a dream? It's a more subtle level of mind. So that having relinquished that grasping mind, that craving mind, which is a very unsettled mind, it's a mind of dissatisfaction, discontent. So having relinquished that and just like, at least thinking, well, the lowest scope would be at least creating conditions for a better, as good as like having all these conditions coming together in our next life. So it'd be a lower scope, but the one for I want to be free from this, to be free from one suffering existence after the other. And so we have all these, like Lama Tsongkhapa wrote, like verses to induce weariness with cyclic existence, a sense of exhaustion of lifetime after lifetime of, repeating the same non-beneficial patterns. Okay. And then it performed with a bodhicitta. So that's what I should say about the mind of renunciation, definite emergence. So this becomes, when it's uncontrived. At the moment, I've got to go into the shopping centre and watch where desire goes. But when this mind definitely have an aversion for things, or not, let's say disinterest, because I'm still going to eat and I'm still going to buy the things I need, or support my existence so that I can support others. But I'm not, I'm not seeing that as the source of my happiness anymore. Realizing it's not the source of happiness. It has a function, enjoy it while it lasts. However, it's not the source of happiness. So the body, and so that's the uncontrived renunciation that we say, oh, that sets you on the path. And then on top of that, on Mahayana path, the Bodhisattva path, is having this mind of bodhicitta, which becomes a cause for enlightenment. So we want to reach a stage where it's uncontrived bodhicitta, like the Buddhas, like the Bodhisattvas. It's, I was like Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I could never but see him always just sort of oozing bodhicitta. And Venerable Roger, who probably spent more time around Rinpoche than any others, he said never ever did he ask for anything for himself. Rinpoche has never asked for anything. No such thing as a day off. No such thing as, can you get me a cup of tea? No such thing as that, any of it. Like, if it's offered, accept. If it's not offered, it's okay. So that's, but also at the same time, I remember I was at Root Institute one time, Rinpoche was teaching Kadampa Masters, and I was sort of very excited that I was in the same place as Rinpoche. So I was a little bit, shall I say, stalking? A little bit, no, probably more than a little bit stalking. Just sort of, Rinpoche's doing all these practices around, loitering with intent. And then Rinpoche just turned around and said, yes. I had nothing to say. I was like, no, Rinpoche, just enjoying your company. I had nothing to say. So if that happens, have something to say. But it's like, you must want something, you're hanging around. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Yes.
Lots of mosquitoes and covered.
Lucky mosquitoes. Yeah. Yes. Lama Zopa definitely not of this world, right? Definitely that's an advanced practice. And you think India, what is all the malaria killed you. One of my Dharma friends got killed.
Lots of other.
Lots of other, diseases. Cross river fever, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's here. Yes. And in Adelaide with the scorpions, Rinpoche discovered that they'll have milk. So he put out milk to bring the scorpions. Yes. Yes. No, you wouldn't say that's necessarily a break of vows. It's watching that mind of desire arise. So if you're aware of that in a dream, if you can bring some light of awareness onto that and go, even in my dreams, there are practices to bring into sleep and dreams, but that's sort of quite advanced. But just, if you're thinking that's a more subtle level of mind, it's saying that these tendencies are deeply ingrained in me, right? And so we can appreciate that makes it difficult to let go. The fact that we even exist here is because of desire, because of grasping, craving, to be in existence, to have a body, to exist, to be. Well, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche encourages us, and it's in the Buddha's teachings, of to see all things like a dream as one, to see dreams as dreams. It's just a dream. Like we do that. We wake up and go, oh, it was just a dream. And we're able to dismiss that. But the lamas go, no, see, everything is like a dream. It's not like when you're in the dream state, it feels very real, right? But then you wake up and go, oh, that was crazy. Or maybe you go, oh, that was amazing. I wish it was real. Whatever response we have, and you realize it's evaporating into thin air. And so they encourage us to have that same lightness of attitude to everything, that it's really very ephemeral, everything. We grab at things. What's, we do analyses like, where's the beauty from the side of the object? And when I was living in Sydney at Vajrayana Institute, and a few of the residents there, one was saying, I love chocolate. And the translator would say, you can't love chocolate. You can like, and so they have this debate. You can't love chocolate. Like love is something else. Desire, yes, you can have desirous attachment. So they're having nice debates around that, so that we distinguish. But, we just see those in a way, as we do, we can just dismiss a lot of our dreams. If it's something of virtue, there are things that, if you dream of this and that's very positive, that's very auspicious. If you dream of being in a Dharma talk, if you dream of a whole bunch of monks and nuns, not just that. Some of them are like, well, if you dream of yogurt, or I can't figure out if I've ever had a dream of yogurt. Just saying. Yeah. Pure. That you obviously haven't purified enough to dream of yoga. Yeah. Okay, let me tell. Don't be stressed. Okay. So say I dream I'm killing someone, and that in my dream that being dies. Then I wake up. Where's the being that died? I haven't killed anyone, right? So I haven't created the karma of killing. I have perhaps a tendency in my mind to maybe not even kill, but to have that tendency to think in that way. Maybe I just read a bad horror story before I went to sleep, so be careful what you read. I had to give up many years ago reading a certain, what do they call them? Murder thing author. I used to like the crime fiction, thriller. And I was like, when it got to a book where one of the books had no positive characters in it, I'm like, why would I want to put that on my mind stream? I've got enough of that already. It's just like delete. It became much simpler. Because on top of what's already a whole bunch of garbage I'm trying to purify, there's a whole bunch of other garbage that didn't come from me, it was from someone else, and now I've incorporated that. Which is also, they're doing all the film Oscars and Emmys and whatever at the moment, isn't it? And I had a look. I mean, none of the films mean anything to me. I don't watch. But every so often I have a look and go, that's not nice. The characters are not nice. The situations are not nice. And I think that's the world, seems to win awards for not being very nice. No redeeming features. Thank you. That's perfect. No redeeming features. Anyway, those of us with many redeeming features. So with bodhicitta, and particularly that when we eventually practice to get the point of uncontrived bodhicitta, becoming a cause for enlightenment and to enlighten sentient beings, because to at least guide them. The Buddha said, I can't do it for you, but I can show you how. And that was the Buddha's teachings. So as Lama Zopa says, the goal is clear. It's to lead all beings to enlightenment. And then we think, by living according to the vows, you have the freedom to practice the vows. What does it mean to practice the vows? So one thing that you can do is take one vow that you've taken, read everything about it, meditate on it, spend a year on it, really, and then you unpack to more and more subtle levels and gain an appreciation for all, as it said, all the variety of aspects of that vow. And then and so that then informs your practice. Okay. Next. The vow of the Bodhisattva mainly emphasizes observing bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment. We talked about that. It is a mental attitude, because we talk about the practices of the Bodhisattva of engaging in the 6 perfections, which involves activity, action, but the main thing is our mental attitude. And the very first Lamp on the Path retreat in North Carolina, I'm just thinking, I think Venerable Gyatso was the retreat leader for that one, 2009. The very first one there with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, I'm pretty sure. And so there's a book that came out of that first one, the Bodhisattva Attitude, I'm sure. Yeah, some people are aware of that. Where it's just like everything I do in the day, having this mental attitude, or at least training myself throughout the day. Oh, I'm opening the door to enlightenment for all sentient beings. I'm closing the lower realms. Favorite one of mine, because Lama Zopa Rinpoche says too. When you go to the toilet, you put the toilet seat down and seal with the double vajra, and it seals off the lower realms forever. So I just had to restrain myself and not be too enthusiastic about banging the toilet seat, sealing off the. So far, I haven't broken the toilet seat, haven't. Visualizing that. So everything we're doing, turning on the light of wisdom so that beings, to be the light dispelling the darkness of our confused minds, tying the belt of self-discipline, just absolutely everything. So Venerable Pekar has this wonderful practice of everywhere throughout the house. She puts up all these bodhicitta signs, and when you're on the toilet, when you're brushing your teeth, when you're washing. And this is all in these, Lama Zopa's advice of how you can integrate that just in your thinking, just like Richard Gere, saying, whenever I meet people, my first thought, may you be well, may you be happy, may you be well, may you be happy. So just practicing may you be well, may you be happy, I discovered in King Street, Newtown, totally transformed my shopping experience. This is before Elder. This was, King Street, Newtown's a busy, trendy, I don't know, still trendy. But you're suddenly actually connecting with others rather than what am I getting out of this? So it starts to break that down, orienting ourselves towards others. Yeah. Okay, bodhicitta's mental attitude, taking responsibility for bringing happiness and enlightenment to all beings with love and compassion, free from any trace of self-interest, as well as putting this into practice. That's what we're aspiring to. So we looked, those of us who were here last year, and we were looking at the 2 methods for training the mind, 2 main methods for training the mind in bodhicitta, the 6 cause, 1 effect, coming from Arya Asanga, and then the equalizing, exchanging self with others, coming from Shantideva. This idea that equalizing, exchanging, the exchange is, instead of thinking about how's the world impacting me, you hurt me, it's actually how am I impacting the world and how can I help? How can I help? So we're changing completely our orientation outwards. That's the exchanging self. And then, on the basis of equanimity, that none of us want to suffer, all of us want to be happy, and so forth. We've got the whole, number of steps that go through like that. Developing an affectionate love for all beings, seeing all beings dear, not cockroaches. because, you know, when I stopped killing cockroaches, my friends would come around and say, you know what, when you're away, we're going to come and kill the cockroaches for you. And I was very beginner level. It's like, I wish they wouldn't talk about it. I wish they'd just do it when I'm not here. Yeah, not very bodhisattva attitude by far. Anyway, they didn't, thankfully, because I would have been like responsible for them creating the karma of killing as well as killing. It's double whammy. But anyway, and then one of my friends decided she would give my cockroaches, the ones in my place, names. And then suddenly you relate to them very differently. And then if you look at them, they've got different colorings. They've got, I know you probably think I'm weird already. But you look at them very differently. And then, of course, as a Dharma practitioner, you put them all in a container with Buddha images and mantras and take them outside, take them around holy objects, release them. They come back in, you do the same again. Yeah. Different relationships with beings. So here, we're not just refraining from harming others, but dedicating ourselves to serving. So it's the idea, how can I be of service? So refrain from harm, engage in virtuous practices, beneficial practices, and benefit others as much as we can. Because if that's the job of a Buddha, and I want to become a Buddha, I've sort of got to practice quite a bit already along the way to how to be of benefit right now, not waiting for, I don't have this uncontrived bodhicitta. I don't have this unbiased, impartial mind that embraces all beings equally. The only way we're going to do it is train our mind to do it, isn't it? Okay. Awesome. Bodhisattva ethics are quite complex, and for that reason, all the more important to place them in their context. So within the context of the Lam Rim, the graduated path to enlightenment. And within that context, it's knowing, okay, this is when we say this is like a great scope practice. In other words, it's like the deep end of the pool. But however, when I'm you know, sort of starting out as a Mahayana student, say, and I'm making that aspiration, everything I do, as I was mentioning, like, everything can be done with a bodhisattva attitude to cultivate that mind. It is, you know, so that when we start with the small scope and thinking about impermanence, death, karma, and so forth, lower realms, thinking with that mind of, I've got to become enlightened, you know, to benefit all beings. And so that then, that bodhicitta mind empowers all your meditations, all your practices, and everything that you do. All the, you know, vows that you take are empowered by that. So it makes you a much more powerful mind. I've done quite a lot of work in prisons, and one of the guys who was on death row in the US, and yes, who did get executed. But as you know, as he was preparing for the end of his life, I mean, he'd say, you know, I could die before my death date, because he had a date with death. You know, it was going to happen on this day, and then they do all the preparations and so forth. And he had a geshe there, and he had a monk who was a mentor and so. And he was training himself. I'm going to go out chanting Om Mani Padme Hum, until I lose consciousness, chanting Om Mani Padme Hum, the mantra of compassion, the mantra of all beings. How wonderful. He did in fact do that, which means it was on his mental continuum. As he was in prison, he said, I just want to stay alive. So his aspiration, having met the Dharma and having practiced for quite some years, was to teach. So I just want to teach Dharma. That's all I want to do. Of course, you know, the media also interviewed him, as they do, you know, someone's on death row or whatever, and he says, I will die for the benefit of all sentient beings. And what do we make of this? This is not what you normally say when you're being executed, right? And it's like, okay. But the Geshe said, none of us will be as prepared for death as he was. Totally prepared. And by the way, all of us around the world were at the same time, it happened to be like Friday morning over there in Sydney, we were doing, also doing Chan raising meditation and chanting on Ni Padme Hum, sending vibes and so forth. So, wow. I mean, there's nothing like death as a wake-up call, is there? Well, it would be a contradiction, but the impending death is a wake-up call. We've all got impending death, we're just not realizing that. Okay. The purpose in practicing method is to gradually work towards producing the altruistic aspiration to Buddhahood, known as the spirit of enlightenment or bodhicitta. So gradually. So it's not just abstaining from doing harm. We have also in relation to the 3 higher trainings that practice of ethics, morality is fundamental in terms of at least getting our body and our speech under control, so that then we can also cultivate more powerfully the mind of calm abiding shamatha, mind of concentration. And so it's indispensable then to develop that mind, which is then the basis when that's like a laser-like, all the energy's been really, really harnessed, laser-like of that mind, very powerful. Then apply that when we're doing analytical meditation, which is a higher training in wisdom. And that then when we have a aha moment, when something sinks in, we'll place our mind there, calm abiding, place our mind there to let it sink in more deeply in our experience. So it said that without insight, we can't generate bodhicitta, right? In the sense that we need that power of the wisdom mind to generate this uncontrived bodhicitta, where they both complement each other. And without that uncontrived bodhicitta, we can't complete the tantric path. I know that the first time I talked to my teacher after taking our highest yoga tantra empowerment, he said the most important practice to do is bodhicitta, because it's like, oh, you're visualizing this, you're doing that, you're doing that. Bodhicitta, 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 the most important. Yep. Okay, next. The spirit of enlightenment is first generated in a contrived manner, as we've been saying, training my mind to think I'm doing this for the benefit of all beings. I'm looking out for others, not just for myself. Doing it voluntarily, as are all the qualities of the spiritual path that precede it. So it's practice, 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 practice. That's for anything to stick. Again, one of the guys in prison, Long Bay, and we were there for a moon festival. The Vietnamese tradition has this moon festival. And this guy came up to me. I'd never seen him in any of the meditation classes or Dhamma classes. And he goes, I tried meditation once, it didn't work. I'm like, oh, okay. How long did you try? 5 minutes. Yeah, I think you need to put a bit more effort, gradually, again and again and again. It's like 99% practice, and then occasionally we get that moment that inspires us to keep going, because that's what I'm after. And as soon as you go like that, particularly grab at it, it's gone, But we know it's possible. This is the thing. If we didn't know it was possible, we wouldn't be here. We do know it's possible. So either we've had the direct experience or we've had something close enough to. Through training and meditation, eventually it transforms into a spontaneous experience. But I think we can have many times a spontaneous experience of bodhicitta. Yeah, possible, doable. You're nodding?
Yeah.
So you've experienced it.
Yeah.
Good. Something, you see something, I mean, it's great. these days I just sort of skim through the news headlines rather than actually watch, things happening that are causes for that to arise, compassion to arise, and the tears come to your eyes because you just see an awful suffering, and not to be overwhelmed by that, but to have a compassion for those beings who are suffering. And maybe it just sort of comes up when you see somebody homeless in the street, or times where it's just like, oh, our heart goes to them, isn't it? So, we just want to continue to cultivate that to more and more beings, and get more and more capable to do that, so that eventually it will be a spontaneous experience, uncontrived. And then at some point, this is followed even before it's a sort of continuous spontaneous experience. The fact that we've had some is followed by the full commitment to take the bodhisattva vow, not path to enlightenment, to take the vows. Why do we take the vows? Because we can have that aspiration without taking vows, and we can work really hard at that. But that substance, that subtle form that's laid on our mental continuum, means that we're accumulating the merit of holding those vows again and again, and empowers our mind. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Have a harder training to do, isn't it? So okay, on what level would you, okay, so this is, so the bodhicitta is like step 7. So what's the first step? Developing a mind of equanimity that sees that we're all in the same boat, that equally we do whatever we can to avoid even the slightest discomfort, slightest form of suffering. We don't like it. We don't like anything unpleasant, sounds, taste, touch. And there's a basis for that in terms of survival. We haven't poisoned ourselves. So, but we want to avoid at all costs, right? You agree? Not just us. Observe animals. Even when you're trying to help them, they run away because they think you're going to hurt them, isn't it? And so, but we all want to be happy. We all want to have everything positive happen. We all want to hear nice things in their ears, etc., etc. And so, on the basis of that being all the same, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, physically, mentally, emotionally, this is just the human beings. We are all the same. We're all the same. So that's one step, right? And on the basis of that, reflecting on, as you're aware, the kindness of the mother of this life, because we might know theoretically countless lives, I must have had countless mothers, etc., but the one I've got a connection with that's in my mind is the one of this. So on what basis could you think about the kindness of the mothers? Any whatsoever? She gave you this body, which has enabled you to be a Dharma practitioner. Yeah, so she endured her great hardship while, so reflect on what we can, and wherever you need to stop there and go. But that's, without her, I couldn't have this precision. Yeah, I brought my mind there. She carried me in her womb, and you reflect like that, and through all her sickness, whatever. I mean, and maybe once you were born, she helped out for however long. So you just appreciate that and say, okay, just like that, that's all I need to focus on. So we're not focusing on the ways in which she wasn't kind, we're focusing on the ways in which she was, because it's having a function for us to feel that affectionate love towards others who've been our mothers as well. So it's, yeah, so that's, if we understand that's the function of that, then just leave it where it's comfortable like that. You know, sometimes they say, oh, you can think your father, your whoever raised you, and that can come into the picture, but it's that thing of the connection. I mean, it's the closest karmic connection we have. And given that our karmic connections are, you know, beneficial, you know, there's sort of like friend, enemy, stranger, they're constantly changing, right? So even in one lifetime. Yeah, so stick with just the kindness of them, the ways in which she's kind. Yes. No, let's not get complicated. Just so that it serves that function. And then you think, oh, yeah, well, that's true. So other beings must have been my mom previously. Went through those sicknesses, did whatever they did in previous lives. It's okay. You want it to be genuine, right? Not forced. Well, they generally focus on the mother because of this, because it's I mean, often we say unconditional love, and then we have a debate, is there such a thing when we're in samsara? But that, you know, and you know the analogies of, like, you know, the love of a mother for a precious child, and that's where it starts to get maybe awkward. So we just don't go there, just where it is beneficial for your mind to develop that affectionate love for others. Yeah. I mean, and yes, there are the practices of widening that circle of love, which might then include your father, other people in your family, maybe. I mean, people have challenges at all those levels, right? And then again, all those that you're dear to, that it's not difficult to conjure up that sense of closeness, proximity, and affection towards them. Good enough. No, because it's all sentient beings without exception, right? So then, similarly with your dad, think, okay, what, you know, in what ways was he kind to me? Maybe by going out to work every day. I don't know. Huh?
In a boring job.
In a boring job for so many years or whatever. Yeah. Yeah. Then you, yeah. Sacrificing elements that work with, well, yeah. Yes, she is indeed. Yeah. And again, you don't have to invite these people to live with you. It is on the basis of she too wants happiness. She too does not want us. And regardless of how much you consider she is skillful or not skillful about that, look at ourselves, how skillful are we? You know, that part we bring back to us, actually. As one of my teachers said, you certainly were a bad girl in previous lives. And said, I don't have to look to previous lives. True, right? We can reflect on that. So who am I to criticize? Yeah. We're all doing the best we can with whatever we have available to us. And yeah, there are those that are more challenging, which makes your development of compassion even more powerful. Alrighty. Yes, we talked about the two methods earlier. Thanks to this training, we first generate the spirit of enlightenment in our artificial matter. So this is this. I don't like artificial because it's more like contrived, because we're practicing, we're bringing it to mind again and again. Oh, this husband's ex, etc. And that's when you're saying, great, I know I've built up my compassion and affectionate love muscles. I'm ready for that. But don't start too hard. We then pursue our efforts until it changes from a contrived quality in one that is natural or spontaneous. With the realization of spontaneous bodhicitta, we become bodhisattvas and actually enter the great vehicle of the bodhisattva path. So this is where we say we're actually on the bodhisattva path, this uncontrived, this spontaneous mind of bodhicitta. But there's, you know, in the conventional sense, you know, at least one countless great eon to get to that. We don't know how far we've got to already. Actually, sometimes our lamas say, you don't realize how close you are. I'm just like, certainly do not. But the further we envision it away, the further it will be. Next. Although not all practitioners of the great beings path have realized spontaneous bodhicitta, they nevertheless generate the wish. So we can say, yep, we're doing that. The wish to reach Buddhahood for the sake of all living beings in a contrived fashion. If they do not decide to pledge themselves to the bodhisattva path to enlightenment, so in other words, the pledge comes along with taking, aspiring, and then engaging. Their bodhicitta remains what's called at the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. I aspire to that, but I've not yet sort of taken on the vows that really commit me to that, because now I've got to hold those. Yeah. No, you don't be sorry. It's wonderful. Yes. Yes. As Lama Yeshe said, the most disgusting form of laziness is the one of I can't. Like, I no good. We put ourselves down. We put ourselves down. We've got to put ourselves up. Not be deluded and go out there and say, woohoo, I'm a Buddha. If anybody else does that, run in the opposite direction. Yeah, a bit of faith in our capacities, which are way beyond all those negative minds that we have that tell us I'm not good enough, and, you know, I make too many mistakes, all of it, of just like the opposite mind. The Buddha said I can become a Buddha, so I'm going to become a Buddha. In fact, I must become a Buddha. Look at the suffering in the world, that we develop more and more determination. And then if I'm more determined, I've got to look at how to do that. Whereas if I put myself down, it's just like, you know, maybe next life you might be in a hole, you know, I'm not going to be able to do too much there. So we have to enthuse, encourage, and develop our faith in ourselves, in our capabilities. Because if we say we can't, we won't, isn't it? I mean, we won't put effort in. Okay, so say you've taken the aspiring bodhisattva, aspiring bodhicitta, and then later make the commitment to achieve Buddhahood, rather say by promising to practice the 6 perfections or the 3 kinds of bodhisattva ethics, which we talked about. They produce the engaging spirit of enlightenment and take the bodhisattva vows. So that means in a practical sense, when those vows are given, and when it says later, sometimes that later might be a few minutes later, you take the aspiring bodhisattva vows, and then you take the engaging bodhisattva vows, which is where the 18 downfalls, primary downfall, and 46 secondary ones come along. Refrain from. We've made that commitment. Okay, I'm on the bodhisattva path now. And so once we say we're on the bodhisattva path, it is very heavy in negative karma to then relinquish that path, to give that up and say, oh, that's too hard. I will try something else. And something, because you're giving up a greater goal for a lesser one. So as Lama Zopa says, you know, as we're going along with our with bodhisattva vows, that the merit that we're collecting all the time is the cause for, hundreds of thousands of perfect human rebirths in the future, of future lives. So, in other words, very powerful. Oh my God, how did you get to 12 o'clock? Okay, any other questions, comments, points of discussion? Three times, it's exactly that. Refraining from negativity, from harm, engaging in virtue, or refraining from non-virtue, engaging in virtue, and benefiting. So that's the bodhisattva attitude, is the one also to benefit others. Yeah. All right. Happy to leave it to it. We have a choice. Well, I guess we do. We'll stay here on. We're not going to do it. Speaking of which, tomorrow is we've got a few things on tomorrow. Guru Puja at 4, Guru Puja Sop. And then our Tibetan friends are coming along, and we're going to have Tara chanting after that, 6:30. And then I think the idea is a little bit of dinner or something after that. To sort of, did you? It might have been in something that Rob said, or yeah, the idea. No, tea. Oh, chai. Anyway, there's flyers. Yeah, so that's wonderful. Hope it's an ongoing thing. Wonderful, because you know how beautiful Tara water.
No, I wasn't leaving there.
You haven't been asked to. Let's just see what happens. Yeah, I know. I asked about whether we have to do something. It seems the Tibetans are doing it. Of course, in terms of puja, it's always good to make sangha offerings, for the puja, fruit, flowers, whatever. Very good to do. Right. That's the questions on everybody's lips, isn't it? Yeah. It is that, there's, as far as we know, no definite dates. I did speak to someone from FPMT Australia not so long ago. They said there weren't any definite dates yet. But I think the intention is there's going to be an Australia, Geshe will do an Australian tour. And
This year.
Yeah. But yeah, watch this space. Let's create the call as well. Okie dokie, so we can dedicate all the wonderful, virtuous, positive energy we've generated here together, which is way beyond our wildest dreams, to our own and others' swift enlightenment. 16. Page 16. Yewadi Newt. Oh, 16 is in English. Okay, we'll do it in English. Through the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the precious Buddha mind not yet born arise and grow, and may that born have no decline but increase forevermore. And then page 19, Long Life Prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Chikte hen kandi. Ende mahalupa nale jo sampe yishino kadri hinsone tenzin gyatsola sowadetso Page 23, Long Life Prayer for Tenzin Osa. Lord of Dharma, who in accordance with the various dispositions of those to be subdued, makes clear in the light of your well-spoken advice sacred Ganjan tradition, essence of Buddha's teachings, O foremost and holy Lama. To you who are supreme, O Lama, please, please live long. And actually also indicated when he was at Chandrazig last year that he would be hoping to be back in Australia this year. So perhaps we want to put in some request. Take the opportunity. Okay, and then the swift return prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So you might have either this one or this one. If it's this one, the prayer for teachings, it's 10, page 10. If it's this one, page 4. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shurakas and Prachi of Orders, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Thank you, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.